to Kera to Rachel. Is that cool?
Awesome.
Perfect. All your guys' like cool backgrounds. I love it.
Hi, and welcome to this panel today on diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is the month of May, and as we all know, the month of May, we celebrate Mother's Day. And today we're going to be talking about how we enable a better workplace experience for moms in the workplace. We're joined today by 4 incredible women, and we're going to start with some introductions. Let's turn it over to Stephanie from Divvy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I go by Steph. I graduated from the University of Utah back in 2017. I worked as a recruiter over at Qualtrics, and then I moved over to Prince Perelson as an agency recruiter. But now I'm over here at Divvy running all of our recruiting for our revenue organization. So I'm recruiting for sales, marketing, customer success, as well as customer support. So I have a huge passion for recruiting talent as well as retaining talent. And for me, it's definitely such a fun part of my journey, being able to help the company, build a strong, amazing talent, but also bridge that with allowing people to navigate and also promote in their kind of careers as well. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm excited to hear from everyone else.
Thanks, Stephanie. Over to Olivia.
I am Olivia Gochnour. I graduated from BYU in 2013 and have been working ever since. I am now the head of people operations at Tiled. We are actually headquartered in San Diego, but we have quite a few of us here in Utah as well. And I've been with them for 4.5 years, which is crazy. It's gone super quick. And I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son named George. And I am a working mom and try my best every day to balance as much as I can working and also being a mom.
Awesome, thank you. And if you haven't been following Olivia, if you're hungry, you really should be. Is it Utah Grubs? Did I get that right?
Yep, that's our little side hustle. So outside of Tile, being a mom, I have a food Instagram called Utah Grubs where I just post about food in Utah.
It's a yummy side hustle. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, Kera.
Hi, my name is Kera Thompson, and I'm a wife and mother of 4. I am a yoga teacher, model, an on-air host, currently working for the Jazz as their entertainment host. I've been doing that for 3 years and have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Both my mother and father, especially my father, I got a lot of that from him and have always kind of had my own side hustle. And the most recent thing I'm also working on is a project called Interwoven that I sort of rebirthed from another personal project with my partner, Michael Reese. And that's kind of our connection to Kiln. We used their beautiful space to sort of birth a passion project of ours where we work with corporations talking about emotional sovereignty, emotional intelligence, and bridging the gap in corporations and culture using movement. So that's what I'm doing.
I love it. And even though I'm completely inflexible, I have done some of those movements. It was a great experience.
You did.
Yes.
In jeans, but you did.
That's right. In jeans. So, love it. Okay, Rachel.
Hello. First of all, this is so great to get on a panel with all you women, and I feel really lucky that I'm paired with such powerhouses. I hate talking about myself, but I started Rags. It's a kids clothing line, and really it was out of a need. I have 3 boys, and I wanted to create a piece of clothing that made my life easier and my kids comfy. And there was honestly nothing out there that wasn't super cheesy. So I started it based on a need, and we were really, really, really dirt poor, trying to get through school and whatnot, and selling my kids hand-me-downs to fund, this other side project that has now, now I had an opportunity to go on Shark Tank, and that was really great for the brand. And we've been able to work with great partners like Disney and Star Wars and Marvel, and we have some other ones coming, which are amazing. And we're now in Nordstrom, and it's something that I probably never would have envisioned. I think when I started, I thought, if I can make 6 figures, I will be so happy. And that was kind of my goal. But my top priority was my kids. And so to be able to do both has been like a real dream come true. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. I will simply say I'm Eerie, and I'm the CEO of Kiln. Kiln's a community for startups, individuals, small teams. We have locations in Salt Lake, Lehigh, and now in Park City. We're a flex office provider, but we're really a lifestyle and performance brand, doing everything we can to elevate the lifestyle while at work. I will only add one other thing, which is that I was blessed to be raised by a single mom who ran her own business. She was really an entrepreneur out of necessity. So she started a company because she had to, and because she needed to support us. And I learned everything about entrepreneurship from my mom, and she's just an incredible individual. If you've ever walked Rock Canyon, she heads the Rock Canyon Preservation Alliance. And so I grew up watching her in the workplace and seeing the barriers that she came up against as a female entrepreneur in Utah. So I want to just start today by talking about why this topic is important. We're going to get technical because we're going to ask questions like, how do you improve your job descriptions, to recruit people with more diversity and inclusion, specifically moms? How do you, look at roles? How do you manage sort of policies in the workplace, et cetera? But before we go into that, I want to just ask the question, why is this an important topic? Why is this an important topic? And I'll just put that out there.
Who wants the mic? Go ahead, Cara.
I'll start. I mean, why is it important? Why isn't it important? It should have been important this whole time. I think talking about inclusion is such a broad and big subject, and mothers is just one piece, and we are strong, capable, and ultimately creatives, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing everything in our power to support women who both want and need to be in the workplace, and maybe not even having that be a thing that you need to justify or distinguish. Like, you're in the workplace, let's support you as an individual.
I agree with Cara, actually. that was kind of the route I was going to take. Is I think coming into this type of a gig, I came into it really like I've never really seen myself not on the same playing field as everybody else, and so it's kind of been I feel like I've also been really cognizant of like surrounding myself with people that feel and think the same way, and I understand that there's people out there and who really do treat women differently, or there is that, and it exists. But I've made a conscious effort to really surround myself with people that aren't that way, and really just see me for an entrepreneur and somebody that's passionate about my business. And really I've tried very hard to just stay in that realm,
Awesome. Other thoughts?
I love what Kara said about supporting women that not only want to work, but need to work. And I feel like that's why it's so important to be talking about this, because there's so many women that actually need to be working. So how can we support them? I don't feel like every mom out there that's working is like, oh, I just want to be away from my kids. I just want to pursue this. A lot of people may need that income to support their family. Just like how your upbringing was, Arian. And I think for a lot of people, they actually need to, and they don't know where to get started. They don't know how to feel supported. And so it's just such an important topic for anyone that would actually just need, to be in the workforce for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a new mom, I have a baby girl who's 16 months old. So I'm still learning to navigate, being at a really fast-paced startup and being a mom full-time, of course, and just being able to navigate that. And so I think overall, it's very important, in the workplace, because there's moms everywhere, and we're trying to balance, being a fantastic mother as well as being an amazing performer at work. So definitely being able to have some of those resources from the company, from your team, from your manager is definitely crucial to enabling the success of, working mothers.
Awesome. Okay, let's jump into some technical questions. I want to start, Stephanie, if you want to take the first, the first try at this one. What are your thoughts on how companies need to change their job descriptions when they're recruiting in order to improve the diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically for moms?
Absolutely. So as women, we tend to undervalue ourselves given in the workplace. But in terms of job descriptions, I think we need to change some of the wording on the job description to be more, feminine opposed to masculine. When we think of a leader, we think of someone who's male, because predominantly that has been kind of that in the workplace. But I think we need to have a mentality shift of, opening it up and, using different adjectives and verbs in order to do that. And I know Textio is a really great tool to support that. And so a lot of companies can definitely utilize that to, help them up-level their job descriptions and really be able to attract more diverse talent overall.
Okay, Textio. Do you want to just spell that out? Is
Yeah.
it T-E-X-T-I-O? I don't.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
Okay. T-E-X-T-I-O. Cool. That's a great tool to mention. Other thoughts? What do you guys think? How can we improve job descriptions? Yeah.
I think speaking to the flexibility that the position could possibly offer. I think at Tiled, we do such a good job. We have 4 values that we live and breathe by at our company. And the top one is balance. And in our job descriptions, we are trying to be better at emphasizing that it is a flex. Like, who came up with the concept of 9 to 5? Like, we have no idea, like, why is that the most effective to be 9 to 5 when a lot of moms may be more attracted to a job that's like, if you get the job done and you accomplish your tasks, you can work from 7 to 9 before your kids wake up and during nap time and at night, and and that's, I feel like, what my job has kind of turned into, of really being able to work around my kids' schedules, which has been such a great blessing for me at Tiled. And I think that other companies maybe need to lean more into like the flexibility. Does it really need to be that work is only done between these 9 to 5 hours? Yeah, you should be able to be held accountable and be able to be accessible and be on Slack if you need to, and be on meetings if you need to, but be okay if they're getting most of their work done at night after their kids go down. So I would just maybe put an emphasis on the flexibility that you could possibly offer at your company for moms.
I think to add to that, I think honestly, we would all probably admit that's been the silver lining of COVID, right? It's like really understanding that it's silly, when you look back on things that maybe our culture has done in the past, you're like, I can't believe we did that. I honestly feel like a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 is one of those where it's like, I can't believe we really expected humans to come in and sit in an office from 8 to 5. And it's like capped us on our talent. We're in the process of recruiting a president, which is a big role, huge role. And a year ago, I never, ever would have even thought about getting somebody out of state or remote. And because of what's happened and because of the flexibility, the doors, like so many doors have opened, you know, and really getting to recruit unbelievable talent has been such a perk because of that.
I'll add to that, just, I 100% agree. Like, this has been an incredibly leveling year globally. And I think if you can look at that from a perspective of when we are all experiencing one thing, when there's something that we can all connect with and understand, it begets like a sense of community, and this, like, we have no other choice but to like look out for each other and hold space for each other in our individual realities. Every single person experienced this last year different, but yet we're still tied together by this event. And so because you can feel that, and I think that's what my like gift or my like understanding has been with yoga, is like when you can feel that in your body, you are able to show that same empathy or want to create spaces or be around people that understand those same things. Like, we have to hold each other and like assume the best and hope for the best and provide structures and institutions that like are rooting and supporting and giving people, ultimately, we are human, which means we are imperfect. So we not just mothers, like that's a fun conversation, like this really specific niche, but all of us as human beings, we are infallible and imperfect and continuously changing and moving, and progression is about creating structures that support that, because there's no getting away. We cannot, and I think the old way is like trying to put everything in a box, and you can look at it in every little section. Like, we can't do that anymore. We have to, and we're big enough. We're like, this is 2021. Yes. The movies that we were watching, you know, things were floating around, and you know, we can do this.
What a shame if we don't embrace it now, you know, like you don't want all that to go in vain. I think it's time. Totally.
So Kara, I like what you said about structures. We need to provide the structures. What is it that you think, and I'm again putting this out to the group. Let's if you have any final thoughts on recruitment, that would be great. But what else do you think needs to change in the way that companies structure their engagements with their employees so that we can have better diversity, equity, and inclusion, and specifically for moms? What other structural things do you think are inhibiting or could enable?
I kind of brought up a point where, you know, and Olivia, it's really cool to hear that you're working remote. You know, the child is not Utah based, yet you're in Utah and you're doing it. And that, I feel like that concept was so foreign even just a year ago, you know. And for me as the CEO of my company, I want to recruit the best and the most capable, and whether that be, you know, a male or a female, that's what I want for my company, and that's what I owe my employees, and that's what I owe myself and my family. And because of the last year, there's things that are, and I still feel like I don't know how that's going to pan out, but I'm so open to it, and I'm excited about that opportunity, you know, to have somebody, you know, back east maybe come in and run that role. And whereas that would have never existed a year ago, you know.
Stephanie,
oh, sorry.
go ahead. Oh, I could just see Stephanie was trying to jump in on something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so from a recruiting perspective, I think flex work is super helpful in terms of recruiting for diverse talent. People could be in the office or really, working remotely, or even having a hybrid schedule where people are coming in a couple of days a week and then maybe other days, being at home. So that's what we have at Divvy. And it's been, providing a lot of flexibility for people working anywhere. And for us, we're really not measured on the hours that we're putting in. It's really about, our performance and our impact. And let's say if we're, not working the, standard 8 to 5, but hey, if we're putting a couple hours in at night and still hitting our goals, I think that's what matters at the end of the day. So I think that allows a lot more people to, come in and really be able to drive a lot of, innovation and talent that we may not have been getting before if it was just solely an office job.
Well, and I think that motivates people to dig in even harder because they enjoy the flexibility, So it's been interesting to see like how polarizing that is once you are forced into a situation like this. You see the ones that appreciate the freedom and the flexibility and they come and they're performing, and then you see the others that were probably just coming to work to sit at the desk and they were counting hours. It's been really interesting.
I think it goes to say too at how the language around, Olivia, what you do, for instance, and recruiting. I feel like when I was younger or like in the, early stages of, I had kids really early, so I'm all messed up with my like timelines of job things, but it was human resources. And you think of like what that title meant and involved, and then just this sort of like archaic, like you're just trying to get resources out of you know what I mean? I feel like the language, like people and culture and like community, like I just feel like as we progress as a species, we realize that it's not 100% about getting 100% of the essence out of a production, out of a person, like that. And like I think Kiln does so beautifully is you are under, like there has to be a balance for sure of we want to like be successful, we want to have high output, but like in order to continuously operate at a high level, there has to be someone, and whether male, female, whatever, like the idea of a feminine presence, and again, what that doesn't matter what you identify it as. I think a feminine energy and presence in a workplace is crucial. It's crucial in, again, every single instance in life. I think of the symbol, is it like of doctors where it's like the staff and then the snake going. I love that idea because there is beauty in like structure and organization and but there has to be this fluidity moving through things. And for me, as someone who has chosen a role of motherhood, which doesn't come to everybody, that is a decision that I decided to do. And that act of 14 years now, my oldest is 14, my youngest is 4, it has ultimately really taught me very well in a very raw and real and tangible, refining way of like what that flexibility and fluidity really looks like. It's opening yourself up to like hold people as they are and in the present moment.
I love that. I like, just for anybody that's listening wants to take cliff notes on this, job descriptions should talk about the flexible nature. If the job can be flexible, should talk about working hours and how those could be flexible, should talk about how success is measured, right, Stephanie? Whether it's measured through outcomes or through hours. And then I also think that there will be hybrid jobs. I mean, we're sort of used to two structures, part-time, full-time, right? Maybe it's project-based work that will become, I mean, I think, Kera, some of your work is project-based work, right? You're compensated for delivering on a project, and that versus a salary or an hourly rate, et cetera. Those structures, as they change and modify will also help increase diversity and inclusion. What have you seen done in your workplaces that has specifically been helpful to moms? Can you think of anything that you feel stands out about moms? Olivia's already talked about schedule, meeting times, those kinds of things. Is there anything else that you feel like somebody who's listening that might be an employer or somebody in a decision-making capacity could do or change, be helpful for moms?
I'll say one thing really quick that might sound a little silly, but it really does make such a big difference is be okay. Managers and coworkers need to be okay with seeing kids around as moms are working. That might sound silly, but I love when my daughter gets on my lap because she wants to be with me and I have a meeting and maybe I couldn't find a babysitter that day, or my husband had a call too, which happens all the time. So he's in the basement, I'm upstairs, she's on my lap. I love that our CEO who I report to is like, Penny, hi, how are you? How's this? How's that? And it makes you feel less embarrassed or like ashamed. You should never feel ashamed of being a mom and working. And I think that if you can kind of come up with a culture that understands that and accepts that and loves your kids and loves seeing them, it makes all the difference to feel comfortable and not feel like ashamed and feeling like you need to choose one or the other.
Yeah, that virtual call etiquette's been interesting, hasn't it?
Yes, and we
remember when we just started with the wife the kid who toddled into the on air. I mean, that was before we all knew that, like, and the stress.
Yes, it just is so stressful, and you could tell he was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And now I think these last 14 months, we've all had that. We've all had a kid come in, and let's be okay with that as a culture at companies and accept them and love them and say hi to them rather than shove them away.
Give me the number of the person who isn't okay. I feel like I need to like what
okay, nobody put that in the comments section here on YouTube.
No,
it's just a side note.
It's never been.
But Kera will call them, by the way, if you really need her to.
We're all, like I said, like that's difficult.
I think that was a great one, Olivia. Any other thoughts? Like, what have you done in your workplace to just make it a better environment for a mom?
I think being a mom, it's just instinctive. You know, it's like yesterday I had a last minute meeting that came up, and I really wanted my team to meet with this person because he's really busy and he has a full schedule, and he was ready to like meet with us and wanting to dig into some stuff. And one of my employees that I needed in on the meeting was like, oh, I have a dentist appointment with my little one and she's getting teeth pulled, and, you know, and to be able to like give that room and have grace for that. It's like, okay, yeah, let's because I am a mom, and I actually think it's way better use of your time to be there for your daughter, you know, while she's going through something like that than a stand-in, you know? So I think just, if you aren't a parent, be empathetic and give grace for those that are. And I think that's a massive perk for anybody, you know, and it's kind of what Cara was saying too, you know, and what we've kind of been talking about is inclusion and how do you recruit and how do you make it less harsh? I think that in all areas, it's like, I think the world is ready for a little bit more empathy, and really women, there was this like predetermined expectation that you have to come in and be really harsh in order to be respected. And I don't agree with that. I think the world is ready for more empathetic leaders and people that are okay to go in a boardroom and show emotion and be vulnerable. And that is like really, really cool, you know, men or women. So
we painted all of our main boardrooms pink, by the way.
There you
go. For me, it was, I mean, I had been definitely project-based, and before the Jazz had never worked in a real corporate setting, and Kiln was like the first experience where I was like, they are very thoughtful. Like they're really, I had never, like the idea of it's okay to bring your kid and your dog. And
stop.
I know, right? I know this isn't supposed to be.
Hey, that's real though. That's real.
It is real.
That's not, it's not like you're the first person to do that either, but like just that there's just a little bit of freedom and flexibility that really makes a person feel at home.
Look, in Utah, I grew up, I saw men talk down to my mom. I saw it, you know, and I saw what the boardroom culture was like. And you know, there are some things that are kind of bleeding out of our cultures, which is good. We're evolving, definitely. But there are some things that we can do definitely to change either the format of a meeting or the way that we structure decisions that are made in a business to make sure that there's more thoughtful approach, especially to moms. So for example, if you're a mom that has elementary school age kids, 8:30 meeting times can be hard.
Very.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drop my son off at school every day, so I know I don't schedule meetings at 8:30 because I got to be doing that. But those kind of little things, they're structural things that we could just say, hey, we don't do meetings at between 8:30 and 9 because we don't want across the company anybody who's dealing with getting a child to school to be struggling with that. For example, that's an interesting idea.
Right. You it's a better use of your time to be there in the beginning of the day with your kid, and I think we as human beings, it's almost like a bravery, like just being brave enough to be vulnerable and be authentic in that, because sometimes it's deemed as being weak when you have grace like that, or how dare you let them walk all over you? No, that's not how we do it here, or they just need to make it happen. It's not my problem. And I think that is where it's like, no, be brave enough to be the leader that is empathetic and embrace it. And the world is like craving that.
Yeah. Something I also wanted to add was, I think as people do return to the office, I think if there's like nursing rooms or space for, working mothers as they're, navigating that is also super important. Of course, in a work from home environment, you could, freely do that, go pump and whenever needed, or, nurse your baby. But I think having that space is super important. And also even having some sort of like on-site childcare services somewhere, you could trust to have a nanny that you could go maybe during lunch break to, go and check on your kid, I think is super important as if people are moving back into the in-office space. But I think those are really crucial because I know for myself, during the whole pandemic, I, had my baby and I was nursing throughout, and that was in a work from home setting. But I just wonder how people would navigate it as they, went back to office and need that extra space for them to do that.
Yeah, if any of you know Paige Checketts has been doing amazing work in Utah trying to improve childcare options for working moms. Okay, let's just touch on one kind of tough question, which is small companies. Let's just interpret that as sort of companies under 50. They want to have favorable maternity and paternity policies. It's really tough when there's a lack of redundancy in the company, like when you have only one person in that role. And so what are your thoughts on, do you have any advice or thoughts for smaller companies and how they can adopt good policies for maternity or paternity leave?
I mean, I've been there, like we did it, and I have employees that have had babies, and again, it just goes back to me being a parent, and I understand those early moments with your kid, you're never going to get back. And we will figure out at Rags how to make sure that you are going to be able to share those moments with your baby, because at the end of the day, that's what you take with you is, those moments, and I don't want to interfere. I only want to help facilitate. So it's rough, and it was hard. And to my team's credit, I think they all wanted that for, their peers. And so they stepped up and they took stuff off of, these people's plates, and they did it. And you make it work. You just make it work.
Yeah, I love that, Rachel. I think it's so important because you understand as a working mother to have those, paternity leave or maternity leave. And I think across the board, I wish companies can standardize this, maybe have, 3 months of, maternity leave. And then maybe for paternal leave, that could be like 6 weeks, half of it. And I think it's definitely very important on both sides of things. And in this world, it's also not binary. There's people that want to, adopt kids, and I think they should have the option to, take parental leave essentially, or if there's a gay couple or a lesbian couple, they should be also given the option to do that if they decide to adopt a kid or go for a surrogate. I think definitely being able to provide all of those flexibility for all different people.
Yeah, I would add, because you mentioned for smaller businesses, I would personally love to give them 3 months, but realistically it's like, oof, that's really, really difficult. And so coming up with something where they're comfortable and it seems very accommodating, while also, being flexible where it's like, this is the maternity, this is what we're going to give you for maternity or paternity. And then please, like, we will be flexible when you come back, like bring in the baby or work from home, or, where they can come back and help out but also feel like they're getting kind of best of both worlds. I think it's just being able to be flexible is huge. And when you are a small company, there is one person that does one big role. There's not 5 that can just come in, so taking stuff off of others' plates and yeah, but yeah, it's tricky, and it's an interesting balance, when you're tiny.
And that was kind of my experience at Tiled, because we were very small. I think I was the second employee at Tiled. Now we have 50. When I had Penelope, I think there was only like 12 of us, and I ended up only taking like a couple weeks off just because I might be a psychopath and just love to work. And I just felt like she slept all day. What else am I going to do? So I kind of started working. So also having like a very flexible come back to work policy, like Rachel was saying, and maybe saying like, feel free to, you have this allotted amount of time, feel free to like take it anytime throughout this next year is really helpful as well. Where if someone's like, okay, now they're 6 months old and now they're really mobile, and like, now I need like maybe a 2-week break here. Just things like that, where I think can be really helpful as well to be like, you have this many days. I know LinkedIn does that. They give you like, I think paternal is like 6 months, which is crazy. But it's like, take it whenever. Take a month, maybe when the baby's born, maybe take a month here and there and whatnot. Another suggestion might be for my second, like maybe discuss having like an intern come in. Like I think a lot of people are really wanting to get involved at companies, and maybe that's a perfect time to bring in an intern and pass off a lot of your responsibilities to them. When I had my second, like I just said, our CEO's sister was, her kids had all kind of grown up and gone to elementary, and she was looking for a way to get back into the workforce, but didn't know how. And so she came in when my baby was born to kind of start taking over some of the things that I was doing. And now we've kind of broadened our job descriptions together. And now we kind of both work in tandem together. And she's been able to stay on ever since that. So, maybe thinking about, could an intern come in, for a 6-month internship while that mom is out, and maybe hiring mom full time after that.
Love it. Those are some good ideas. Any other thoughts? I do have one final question, then we'll kind of end with a roundup of any final thoughts. Any other thoughts though on those comments?
No.
Okay, so if you look 5 years out, what would be your hope for the world of moms that want to have a career? What do you hope that we look like in 5 years? What else needs to change in order for us to get there? COVID obviously gave us a lot of progress. I think you made some good points, Kara. What other progress, if we could accelerate it, would get us to where we need to be in 5 years?
I was just going to say, my biggest issue still to this day, that is not only like it's emotionally taxing as much as it is like physically taxing, is finding childcare, and doing it in a way that it feels that you're not like the guilt level. There's just something to be said, like the disadvantage that we have as women is that we have this sometimes like never ending source of guilt that that ultimately we're the holders, we're the ones that are supposed to be nurturing and doing all these things. And so having quality childcare, I feel like, so for me, again, project-based work, lots of random jobs and gigs, and a regular preschool did not suit my needs for my youngest. I needed to have flexible time where I can drop her in on this day if I need it, and from 8 to 10 on this day, or all day on this day. And so my resources, and I have my parents, all my family is not in the state, and I don't often like to rely on my husband's family, and it is a massive burden. It's a burden, and it's also the amount of emotional energy that I have to spend like organizing and thinking about and getting to. And even when I did, I mean, COVID ripped my childcare out. They're not even offering it at this stage. So she's been my little sidekick, and that's fine. But the amount of mind power that I have to put towards this does drain my ability to be productive and consistent. And I think that would be really, really cool to like look back and be like, it's not even a question. It's not even something you have to be like, oh, thank you so much for giving me these meager crumbs. It's like, no, this is just what you get because you're equal, and you're a valued part of our workforce.
I think to like go kind of along those same lines, I was thinking about your question, and it's been really, really interesting as I've been growing and building Rags, and my kid's dad, you know, he wakes up, goes to work, comes home, and it's very much like an 8 to 5-ish type deal. And I remember when I first started this, I was speaking in panels and I was getting questions that people were asking, and it was almost like the number one question people asked me was, how are you balancing it all? Where there was this underlying expectation that because you're a working mom or a female, you are also expected to be running your household, scheduling childcare, because that's what you do. Like that's what our society, you know, it's kind of like groomed in us. And I remember asking B, like, hey, do you ever get that question? How do you balance everything? And he was like, never. Like, it's just this expectation of women to like, okay, if you want to work and start a business, you still have to run the home, you know, where the, like, now I think relationships are, I would say in 5 years, I would hope that it's very untraditional. Like we say traditional is, you know, the wife stays home and manages the home, and the husband goes out and works. And I think that things are shifting, but we as a society are still stuck in those expectations, and women do it too. We do it to ourselves, and that's where that guilt comes from. It's like we do it to ourselves, and really trying to fix the way I think, because these kids and this home is not mine, it's everyone's. And so how do we share that load?
Great thoughts. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely takes a village, I think, to raise amazing children. And I definitely think it's also a really great, you know, partnership with your partner, because my husband is also, you know, a working dad, but we definitely try to be equal in terms of our like duties around the house. And it's not like, oh, the woman has to do all the things. So there's definitely, you know, that equal partnership could be, you know, a change in the future. But also I think back to Kara's point around childcare is also quality healthcare, I guess childcare, but also very affordable childcare, because sometimes when you're, working and you're going after it and all of that, you're bringing in the money that's going to just ultimately go out. So it sometimes, it doesn't make sense for you to work if that's the case. So I think if companies could help subsidize childcare, or if there's a way to, have more affordability, that would help a lot of, working moms or even working dads go back into the workplace and be able to make a difference there. So.
And can I just say too, that the mindset really has to be established before, because you would talk to any like traditional man who's starting a business and he's looking, ultimately, what are you trying to do? You try to make profit, right? So you're looking at this cute little panel, these beautiful women, and we're saying, we need all these things, right? And ultimately, like, this seems hard. Maybe it would be easier to just hire some fresh out of college, single college guy that's willing to like give, but like, I guess the embodiment for me is like, we have to really feel it in our bodies that women have value, and that as a contributing force to in order to like see the bigger picture and be like, yes, these are bills. This is more money that we're going to have to be like spending, but we are getting something that is so necessary and so valuable back that it's just sort of changing the whole, like, I feel like everybody just has to like level up. We're all trying to progress, right? And there is a responsibility and an obligation to like feel it at the root level in order for this not to get, because that's where I think toxicity in the workplace and even in feminism and all of these things, like you get a bunch of boss babes that are so excited to like be on top that there's still like a difficult sort of archaic way about them, like the vulnerability that you talked about, Rachel, the feminine, like the beauty of femininity is that ability to like hold and contain and to flow around and to like nurture and like create beautiful things. And for any employer or workplace, that should be you want to make money, but you also want to create a really beautiful, whole, full, sustainable, beautiful thing. And women, I think, are so necessary to that. And we also happen to have kids, so like, just get with it. Let's get it together.
Olivia, did you have a final comment there?
Yeah, just to add one thing to that. I think, like, I think Kara mentioned, women are expected to also run the household and work. So I think as employers and companies and cultures, think of ways, okay, well then how can we make that running of the household easier for them so that they can focus on working their kids? So is it, the perks of the job could be like a Instacart membership where they can get all their groceries delivered for free throughout the year.
Interesting.
Is it a STEM activity? I'm sure we've all heard of KiwiCo or companies like that, of STEM activities that can be shipped to their kids each month. Focus on the kids. I mean, I think my biggest fear is I don't want my kids to just be on this watching a movie all day. So I really focus on setting up activities for them while I'm working that are like in the sensory bin or things like that. So can companies try to make running the household side of things easier so that they can focus on working their kids and not all of the other things? So making their healthcare really easy and accessible for their kids, making the activities, the groceries, maybe a DoorDash credit each month that's like, get a Chipotle delivered for your family dinner every Monday night, or just, I mean, that's a little more of an unconventional way of thinking, but I think that's something I would love to see in 5 years, of companies thinking, okay, more women want to work, but they're also kind of expected to run the household. So how can we take care of helping them with the house?
That's what we have to embrace, I think, is just being unconventional, in all things, relationships, work, everything, it's being brave to be able to do it.
Well, and Kiln, you have a car detailing service comes to the office for Kiln, like that. I love the idea of, that's really convenient. Also, maybe send a cleaner to my house.
Yes. House cleaners twice a month. That I will work at any company.
Exactly.
Well, actually, funny enough that you should mention that. my thought was this: my mother was able to do what she was able to do because she had great. She called them a mother's helper, but there has been a stigma at times about, like, you know, having somebody there supporting moms and or dads, and candidly, building an infrastructure and having this be more of a career path is interesting to me. We have definitely cleaning companies out there. We have other kinds of companies, but a company that's there to be a support to parents, which is, I really think what Rachel and Kera were kind of touching on. This isn't really just about mothers, and it shouldn't just be about mothers. It should be about parenting. Being a career professional and a parent, what is it required to do that well? And there could be great infrastructure built up for working parents. And that's something that maybe in the next 5 years, we'll see some great companies that could come out. I mean, they could be as big as Uber and other, big companies that could develop great technologies and human resource solutions for working parents.
Yeah, and
So-
kudos to you, Arian, for even starting the dialogue. Like, I think this is like how it begins, is to talk about it.
Well, I would love to take credit, but let me just say 50% of my team is female,
Cool.
or a little more than 50%, actually. And they came up with this topic. And so I'm just happy to help facilitate it. I do want to
even hiring over 50% female.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I will say that we did it not because we wanted to hire females, but because we wanted to have a great business.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a great business because of our team. And I'm fortunate that half of our team, or more than half of our team, is female. So let me just say this one thing. I just last comment. We haven't touched on single mothers. I wish we had more time to do that, because bless their hearts, there are some amazing women out there who are doing it all. And if there's anything you've seen from your company that has been specifically helpful to a single mother, I would really appreciate it if you'd mention it. Anything stand out?
I was lucky enough to recruit a single mother, and honestly, I get emotional when I think about her, because the hustle is real, and like the bravery. It's like your kids are relying solely on you, and you are, I feel like, a superhero just in disguise. They're incredible. And for me, it's like, I support you 100%, and I want to make this thing go and thrive so that I can continue to compensate you and pay you more and more and more. And this can, my goal now is, let's create a base for you that you can go and get a house because you're with your parents. And I want that for you. It's more than just do your job and work hard. It's like, let's get you into a home,
Awesome.
Sorry about the tears. This goes back to embrace this.
Yeah.
I think focusing on, what you can do when it comes to mental health, emotional health, physical health for them, and just setting up things for them. I mean, my husband went out of town for just 4 days last week, and I was shocked how tired I was at the end of those 4 days, which, I feel dumb saying that, because there's single moms out there that do that 365 days of the year. And, at the end of that day, I really thought, it came to me, I don't know how single moms do it. I really don't. And so just as an employer, being in tune with that, thinking of ways, how can we support them when it comes to their mental, physical, and emotional health? Maybe supporting them a little more than others. I don't know, but it's definitely something to be cognizant of.
Awesome. Anything else? I really appreciate this session. I do want to mention for anyone who's listening that next Tuesday on the 25th, we are going to be hosting in our atrium in Lehigh an in-person session for career moms and for moms in the workplace. And we would encourage you to RSVP if you'd like to attend that working session. It's a in-person session. You can go to our website, kiln.co, look up events, and then RSVP through that. I really appreciate the incredible comments, the example, the drive of these 4 women, and the conversation that we've had today. And thank you very much, and have a lovely Wednesday. And I would tell you, if you really want to reach out to these women, I can promise you they're the kind of women that will probably reach back out. And hopefully, if you're somebody out there, or an employer, or somebody looking for work, think about these cool women and their organizations, and seek out other advocates and people that can be helpful to you in your organization to really get good diversity and inclusion, and make it a great work environment for moms in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arian, and Stephanie, Kara, Olivia. You guys are all amazing. This is a fun afternoon.
This is our second panel together, Rachel.
I know.
That's so nice to connect.